My name is Paul Newman. I'm with the Council of Forest Industries. I've been with this organization for 32 years now. Most of it in Vancouver. I spent 5 years working in London, England. I was, for 6 or 7 years, president of the Canada Wood Group and was involved in our international activities, including Japan. I've been to Japan many times. I love the country, and actually at the time of the earthquake I was in Japan, so I was able to experience what people were going through to some degree, and as a result felt a great concern and willingness that we should do something to help our friends in Japan. I think Vancouver's proximity to the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, to nature, mountains, and so on, to me is the most attractive aspect of it. When we talk of Vancouver, people tend to think of the downtown area, but if you live here, we tend to think of Greater Vancouver, which is a much larger area. I live in one of the outlying communities, and we have lots of close access to natural areas for walking, for biking, for hiking, and things like that. So to me, that's probably the biggest attraction of Vancouver. I think the other thing that's we like about Vancouver is that it's becoming a cosmopolitan city. It has a lot of different cultures from Asia, from India, from many different regions that have all decided to come and live here, and that makes it an interesting and diverse place to live in. I just happened to be in Japan during the earthquake. After I returned to Vancouver, to Canada, along with our team in our Canada Wood Tokyo office, we spoke pretty extensively about how we could help Japan in some small way during the recovery process. And not only were we within Canada Wood concerned about this, but also many of our companies in the industry who have been trading with Japan for decades. In fact, this year we're celebrating our 100th year Canada trading wood products with Japan. And in fact, that early trade was related to the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923. So there's an interesting kind of a 100-year anniversary this year. Anyways, the companies, our organization, and even the different levels of government, the province, British Columbia, Alberta, as well as the federal government, all decided that they wanted to do something to support Japan during its reconstruction process. So we went out, and I was involved in trying to raise funds for project work from government as well as from our forest industry. We also launched through our office in Japan essentially a competition to try to identify some worthy projects in the affected area, in the Tohoku region that needed reconstruction support. And coming out of that process, we were able to identify the library, we identified the Yuriage market, and we also identified a home for disabled people in Fukushima that needed construction. So after those 3 projects had been identified, we then set about trying to work with the proponents in Japan to see how we could actually support reconstruction of those facilities. So that was kind of my role. I was over there several times during the process, and I was happy to participate in the opening of the Yuriage market after its completion. Yeah, so we, and I may have already covered this to some extent, but we just feel here in Canada, and particularly in British Columbia as a Pacific province, that we have a great connection with Japan. Many people living in Canada are of Japanese descent. So they're part of our citizenry. We also have had a long trading relationship with Japan and come to know each other as, people that are trading goods and services. So when we saw that there was a tremendous need, and also before any reconstruction started, we visited the region to see how terrible, the devastation from the tsunami had been. We recognized that there was maybe an opportunity here to, in a small way, to maybe play a positive role. So that motivated us to try to get involved in raising funds for reconstruction activities. And, we identified the Yuriage market as one of the, really good projects. And I guess one of the things that motivated us was that it had been we understood had been a thriving commercial market and commercial area before the earthquake and the tsunami, and now it was completely washed away. And by assisting in its reconstruction and setting it up again, maybe in a small way we could help revitalize that area. So that was kind of our motivation for getting involved in Yuriage. Well, I hope that we will continue to have strong and lasting and a growing relationship with the Yuriage region and Natori, and of course Senda, the large community that Natori is a part of. So I think these things could take all sorts of interactions could take all sorts of forms. I noticed it was mentioned in your video that there was already student exchanges taking place, and I think that is good if things like that could continue. I don't know if Natori has a sister city relationship with Canada, but if it does, it would be good to strengthen that and maybe build upon that relationship. I think we have a lot in common as coastal nations. And there's a lot of sort of bonds that we can share. Our proximity to the sea, taking some of our livelihood and our sustenance from the sea, and so on. So yeah, I hope the interaction will remain strong between Canada and Yuriage, and I look forward to visiting again. I haven't had an opportunity now for a few years, so yeah, I'd love to go back.
Sure. My name is Bruce St. John. I'm the president of Canada Wood. I've been here for 5 years. Before that, I worked briefly for the BC government, and I actually ran the Canada Wood offices in China before that for a short period of time. And before that, I worked in the forest industry for 20 plus years. Vancouver, I really like how multicultural it is. I think if anyone comes to Vancouver, they'll see how multicultural it is. So we get to see so many different people from around the world, and they're all living together in one place. The other thing is it's very outdoors focused. It's a very clean city. You'll notice lots of hiking and skiing, and during the summer there's boating and people spending time outdoors. And people don't smoke here either, so you'll notice that it's a very healthy city because of that. People from the rest of Canada, if they're healthy and they like outdoors, they move to Vancouver, so it's a very healthy environment. So those are sort of the two things I like about it the most. Sure. So actually, I was involved in it. I was on the committee that selected the project. So we had, when the earthquake happened, we wanted to do something as an industry. So some of the industry donated money to the Red Cross, but what we found was that the money that went to the Red Cross, it didn't necessarily go to the areas that were affected that much. There was it could go anywhere. And we wanted to do something that was different. We wanted to do something that was for the communities. So there was a group of companies that donated money to go to specific projects within the communities that were affected. I went up prior to the decision making, and we drove around in a bus, and I went to Yuriage, and it was devastating. It was I'll always remember there was a building, it was a 3 or 4 story building, and there was a car on the roof of the building. And I looked at it, and you just saw the complete devastation, and it really affected us. There was a large group of us. So we wanted to do something that was going to be beneficial. So we had, I'm going to say maybe 20, 25 projects that were brought to us to look at. And over a series of it took around 6 months, I think, before the final decisions were made. And this project it just stood out just because it was community-based. It wasn't for profit necessarily. It was something that built back, and it was important to the community before. So we thought that it would be important to the community going forward. So it was one of the top choices on the list of projects that we saw. Well, I think we felt good about it because you could see, we got to see the before and after. So I've been back to the market, I think 3 times since it happened. And again, all the devastation that took place there, to see where that was and where it is. And now, when we go to the market, and you can go on the market day, and everyone, Paul was here earlier, he bought knives there when he was there, and it's great seeing the community of all back involved in it, engaged in the project, and how much it's meant to the community. So that's sort of why it's important for us, and why we really see the value in it. Well, I think there will always be a connection between us. And that'll never go away. It's like, the 10th anniversary. Unfortunately, it's in May, because I was actually coming over in June, I think. But I think there will always be a connection between Canada and Tohoku, and this project especially. I think I've been to Japan 40 times, and my personal relationship with Japan, it's one of respect and admiration. And I always tell that to people. The people in Japan are kind, they're giving, they're caring, and it's safe. And it's a beautiful, beautiful country. And so from my own personal perspective, I have a very close affection for Japan and this project, obviously, because I was involved in it.
私はカナダ大使館広報部長のマット・フレイザーと申します。日本に来たのは最初に93年でしたけれども、その時英語の教師として茨城県にいました。今回の大使館の任期は4年半前からなんですけれども、間にちょっとコロナが入ってきちゃって、もうそろそろ5年になりますので、来年の夏までおりますので、またよろしくお願いします。日本大震災の発生以来、カナダは大きな被害を受けた名取市との間に緊密関係を築いています。カナダ連邦政府、そしてブリティッシュコロンビア州政府、アルバータ州政府、カナダ林産業界が資金面で支援して行うカナダ東北復興プロジェクトでは4つの施設が建設されましたが、そのうち第1弾と第2弾が名取市にあります。第1弾が2013年の1月に完成したどんぐり庵みんなの図書室、現名取市歴史民族資料館、そして第2弾が同年5月に完成したメイプル館を含む閖上港朝市です。そして首相をはじめとする当時のカナダ政府要人やカナダ大使も訪問しています。その後も震災5年にあたる2016年には3月11日名取閖上ツイートイベントに協力し、約250機のツイートトロが大使館のカナダガーデンを飾りました。さらに2020年2020の東京オリンピック・パラリンピックの際は名取市の皆様がカナダの復興ありがとうホストタウンとして活動してくださいました。私自身も2012年4月に当時のハーパー首相前首相に同行して初めて名取市を訪問して以来、もうすでに3回名取市を訪問していました。I think Natori City is a great place, strong connection to Canada. So I want to keep that connection. And I think the best way is with young people. So young people, especially students, there's so much to learn about each other's culture. I love Mapleton. I think it's a great place. Maybe we can use that space to have more gatherings and bring people together. I understand it's a restaurant, it's a place of business. Maybe sometimes we can have a special event inside Mapleton and have more opportunity to gather Canada and Japan together. That's my hope. That's my wish. 今年の5月ですよね。行った時、もう本当に活気が戻りましたっていう気持ちでした。非常に嬉しかったですね。もう just so busy, so many people talking, laughing, wonderful, wonderful. I want that kind of energy, and I want Canadians to know that kind of natori, because that's such a wonderful natori for the future.